Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Student Spotlight series, where we showcase some of the work our past students have done. Today, it is our pleasure to have with us Riana Das. So, Riana, can you tell us a bit about yourself, where you're from, what year of school you're in, and what course you've taken with CCIR?
Yeah, so hi, I'm Riana Das. I'm 16 years old. I'm going to be a senior next year at Amador Valley High School, and I'm from the Bay Area in California. And I took the one-on-one research program.
So, can you say a little bit about how you became interested in the program?
Yeah, so I was like, I've always been interested in like the intersection of like tech and bio, but especially like around me, which I know sounds kind of crazy because I'm from the Bay Area, there aren't really a lot of opportunities to explore as kind of like a smaller niche. So when I saw like I got a friend recommended it to me actually, and when I saw that there were like really specific opportunities and topics, I got really like interested in CCIR.
So, you said you're interested in the intersection of tech and bio. Can you say a bit more about what you mean by that?
Well, like my dad, he works at a biotech company, and I think like he's really inspired me. And I've always found like in school that I'm better at more like STEMmy topics, and I think like those two influences kind of fostered my interest, I would say.
Mhm. So, can you say a bit about how the course was structured?
Yeah, so I think we first went over like lectures and he kind of my professor, Dr. Yusrab, he went over like CNNs and um more general like AI topics and like how AI actually works. So it was kind of like less black box and I more understood like the actual foundations. And then we kind of went, I think around like midway, he introduced like a list of topics and he said like if any of them interested me, then I could try them out, or if it inspired me to find my own topic, I could then I could let him know and then we can start working more on that. And then um we started working on like training our own model. And with like this data set for pneumonia of
Mhm.
X-rays. And we use like ResNet and we like tried it out with other models as well to like improve our own.
Mhm.
And then we wrote
So,
our paper on that.
yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. So, can you say sort of in a word what what the research project was?
Yeah, so well, if you want to like the title, I guess I would just be like, um, well, I'm trying to remember the title, or like it was kind of like the ability of AI um in like the diagnosis of lung disease, because like and so in our paper, we kind of went over like how the AI model could like look for certain masses and compare like actual like images of pneumonia in lungs, and then it could use like that knowledge to diagnose patients.
Mhm. So, how did you settle on that topic? Was that an interest that you came in with, or did you sort of take your interest in biotech and kind of work with the mentor to come up with a topic?
I think I kind of already knew about like that was what I was kind of interested in. Like when I was applying to CCIR, I talked about that in my application.
Mhm.
And the I think like um I chose that as kind of my topic, like the role of like AI in diagnosis. I think that's like one of them. And but I didn't know like what like specifically I wanted to do. I kind of like which I just understood that I had like a lot of promise in that field and I wanted to be involved in it. And then with the topic list that Dr. Yusrab gave me, I like looked at them and I was like, oh, this one looks pretty interesting. So yeah,
Mhm.
I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, I think that answers the question. So, what were your results?
Um, well, we train our model and we got like really, I would call them really good results. Like our loss was so we trained for like 30 like cycles, I guess you could call them, and our loss was really good compared to like traditional models like CNNs and ResNets. And like I think within like 14 or 15 cycles, it was so close to zero, like the error was so close to zero that like the results were just saying zero. And I think like that's pretty good. And I think it really does have um a lot of promise. Yeah.
And I imagine you did, I guess, some tests to ensure that there wasn't any overfitting going on or something like that.
Yeah, we did like well we okay, our data set was kind of like it was pretty good, but I think there was like less for one type of data set, I guess. I don't know how to explain it, but we what we did is like we applied like configuration to the image. Like we either reflected it or we like transformed it and we like made it like into different colors to make sure that like the AI model wasn't just like lying to us and it actually knew what it was doing.
Mhm. And can you say a little bit about how, so you mentioned that your model is different from, I guess, a conventional CNN model. Can you say a little bit more about what makes your model unique?
I would say because like it's different from like a traditional model because it combines what we already know and it kind of uses a combination to create that because like for ResNet and like CNN, like they both use kind of like different mechanisms, I guess you would say, um, to like get to the answer or like the like to like diagnose like yes or no, there is a problem going on. And we kind of used um a combination, like we used some code from CNN and like I don't know if you know like CIFAR 10. It's a pretty like modern AI model and we kind of like took inspiration. I think that like that's what sets us different because it like takes a combination of all of them
Mhm.
and it kind of
So
builds upon what is new.
this is kind of a related question then. I imagine that in preparing to do your writing, you did a lot of sort of research on secondary literature, I guess, about
Mhm.
whatever, I guess, about your topic, right? And I guess my
Yes.
question then is what, I guess, what do you feel like the contribution you're making to the existing body of literature on using AI uh, to analyze medical images or using AI to detect lung disease? I guess, what's your unique contribution or how are you extending the work that's already been done?
I think that like because the work that's been done, I feel like because I know Dr. Yusuf had me like read a lot of like these really extensive papers. And I think that like the paper that I've written is kind of new as in let me think about this. Because it's not I did say earlier that it was a combination, but I would say like we did like new things because like including like object detection. And I think like for example um like CNNs don't use object detection. It uses like pixel detection, which is
Mhm,
really different because it like which leads to a lot of like mistakes because it
mhm,
just like it kind of thinks that like yeah, it makes mistakes and um but then I used object detection, so I kind of like grouped pixels and I classified them
mhm,
and like I don't I when I in the papers that I've read, not a lot of um models used for diagnosis use it.
mhm. Yeah, so that seems very clear. That seems like a very very useful step forward. I guess can you say a bit more then about what object detection means in this context, or what? Well, yeah, what do you mean by object detection?
Right. So like I'm sure you know like in cars they use object detection like to like pass lanes or like know if something's there then it stops. But for diagnosis it like um since kind of on a smaller scale. So like on an X-ray like certain spots that appear more dark or more light mean that like there's like an abnormality, right?
Hmm.
And I think a lot of like AI models kind of tend to find like just random little spots that could have been made by like just a mistake in the scanning process. And so I think like one dark spot is like you have a lung tumor or whatever. But and if you go to like a bigger on a bigger scale, like an object detection, like a actual mass, or like you can see like mucus buildup in the like bronchi. Um, I would say like that's what object detection is, and I think like that's more reliable than pixel detection.
Hmm. So is there a reason why I guess the models previously or currently being used to analyze medical images don't use object detection?
I would say it's kind of it's just well as you know like AI is pretty like it's been kicking up like in the past few years, but it is a relatively new field, and I just don't think it's um really a big thing. Like people have been talking about it, but I don't think anyone's actually done it and published it, is what I'm saying. Because like I know I read like a paper, it was and it was kind of like an overview. It was like a comparison of all the approaches that could be taken. And it did mention object detection. That's where I got it. Like I got the idea to do that for my model. But it did also say that it's not really like advanced yet, that
Mhm.
particular approach.
So I guess what you're saying is no one has published like a working model that uses object detection to analyze these types of
Yeah,
images.
I would say like it's not, yeah, a big thing. Like it's
Cool.
not a common approach, yes.
Yeah, that seems really exciting. So are you planning to publish your paper?
Um, I pretty much done with like the bare bones of it. I think Dr. Yasrab is still going over it, but I do have like plans. I think this is like a really exciting thing, and I think it has a lot of like possible impact. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. On that note, if you were to sort of continue on from this project doing research in the same field, what do you feel
Mhm.
like the next steps would be?
Oh, that's a good question. I think that like what I did for this project, it was kind of I wouldn't say introductory, but I think I did kind of I think like I have to spend more time going more in depth and um like actually truly going over like more literature and like training my model more in order for like me to like actually cohesively think about that. I know I've done other research in the past and I like linked multiple sclerosis to like prion disease and using like R programming and like bi other like biotech stuff. And I would say like just yeah, I think I just like need more time to like just see what happens.
Mhm. And this is, I guess, this is kind of maybe a broader question than just about your research topic, but you mentioned that a large part of this program for you was learning how AI worked. I guess, you implied at least that previously AI was more of a black box. Now you have a more solid kind of mechanical understanding of how AI works. There's a lot of hope, but also a lot of anxiety, I think, about what the impact of AI will be on human life. We'll keep it as broad as
Yeah,
possible. I wonder if you have any thoughts on how maybe the deeper understanding of AI that you gained through the program has changed how you might think about what the broad impact of AI is going to be.
that's a really good question. I actually like there are definitely some concerns about the role of artificial intelligence in healthcare. Like there'll be and not just healthcare, but like also you'll see like if you I don't know where you're from, but like in San Francisco, like everybody's using Waymos to get to places and teachers are very are anxious that AI is like replacing actual credible human thought. Um, but I think that like I kind of now I think of AI kind of like on the same scale as like calculators. Like it's just like a learning tool and it like aids us. And
Mhm.
I think that like whatever how far it can go, I think we should at least try our best to like test it and see like how much potential it has before throwing it away in like in fear. I think fear will, but I do agree that there are definitely some concerns over like jobs and whatnot. But I think
Mhm.
new jobs will be made. So
Yeah, I mean, I think that with every new technology, obviously there's the question of what it's going to do to employment,
yeah.
right? I mean, when they
Hmm.
invented the electric loom, right, or the
Yeah.
mechanical loom, weavers protested.
Coal, yeah.
I think that's where the term Luddite comes from. Uh, so yeah, people that operated looms were put out of work by the mechanical loom. But
Yeah. I
technology, I
think
think.
like society progresses and we'll just have to adapt to artificial intelligence just like we adapted to the computer and electricity and like even like I said earlier like coal
Mhm.
and whatnot.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think one could argue that new technologies create just as many jobs as they maybe make obsolete.
Hmm.
Though, of course, there
Yeah.
also is sort of the social angle too, right? Where uh, the new jobs that AI creates, the people that lost their jobs to AI might not be able to take the new job.
Yeah,
The
because
question we're going to be left.
I've like been reading up. Sorry, I cut you off.
No, no, don't worry.
but
Please go on.
I did like read because it's kind of I've seen like people talking about how like inequitable it is because the jobs that AI is kind of replacing, I don't know if that's the right word, is like they're more like working class jobs, and the jobs that it's creating are more like you need higher education for them, and it's not really equitable. And I do see where those concerns come from, obviously. And I do think like also AI uses so much water and like just and resources. I do think that it should be used in moderation, but I just don't think we should um live in fear of it, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think fear causes people to behave irrationally. So, I mean,
Yeah.
certainly there are real problems, but I don't think people should be certainly people shouldn't be simply afraid. I guess another related question is you mentioned your teachers um, being worried about AI replacing credible human thought. And it's certainly true that like widespread access to generative AI has totally changed uh, how teaching is approached in I mean, I guess it must be at every level, right? I mean, and certainly in colleges now, it's just assumed that students are going to use AI. And I remember for a couple of years, there was a huge sort of panic about it. Like, what tools can we use to detect this? What do we do when we think a student, may have used AI on an assignment? But I think people have eventually come to the conclusion that there's really no decisive way to prove that someone has used AI, right? And so some schools are trying to totally embrace it. In fact, I mean, on the other end too, like I'm building a college course right now, and the sort of course design workshop had basically someone helping to run the course design workshop was saying that instructors should start using AI to create assignments or even to provide feedback on assignments, which I found very distasteful somehow. But nonetheless, it seems like AI, like I think that, um, I mean, I think that's another interesting risk that is associated with AI. It seems like there are negative educational outcomes, maybe. But yeah, I mean, I think if we do completely embrace the idea of students using AI to do their work, then we have to totally change how we understand the assessment and grading and the purpose, I think, even of education. It's a big
I
change.
think, yeah, I think like what I said earlier about like comparing AI to calculators, because I think like they should be like they're going to be open access, and um, and I think like for some things like it should just be like allowed. Like I know in my English class, I'm taking AP English language right now, and we like write essays online, obviously, right? And we like we turn our desks so our screen is facing our teacher. And we also like obviously we turn it on turnitin.com and which checks for like plagiarism and AI. And I think like I know like some classes also like I think for AP World, which is also offered at my school, we like everything is handwritten and everything. And I do think like um handwritten assignments are going to be more big of a thing, as well as like group assignments for like finals and like more projects in rather than like papers. I think like that's how schools will adapt to it in the future.
Yeah, I think that that's definitely true. I definitely have to grade a lot more like handwritten essays now, which is not easy.
Yeah.
People don't people the handwriting is starting to become a lost art, I think. Um, I guess a final question about AI is so again, now that you have a more sort of concrete understanding of how AI works, do you feel more or less impressed by the capacities of AI?
Would it be wrong for me to say less? Because like now obviously I know what like I know more about AI. Like I think I kind of like understand it more, which I think like before this program, I think I was just so amazed by large language models and generative AI that like I just like it was magic to me. Like it was obviously like that this was like when AI was still new, like 2022, 2023, and it just seemed unreal. And now I think, especially with like every new development that's coming out um and like me just understanding it more, like it makes so much sense to me that I kind of like it lost its magic, but I think like I still obviously am impressed by it. It's like it has lots of potential, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the impression of most people I know who have a deep
Mm.
understanding of AI, which is to say that, like you said, in like 2022, 2023, when everyone was first getting access to ChatGPT, I think that people had this thought that like, oh my God, it's done. We have general
This is
artificial
singularity, but it's not.
it seems like we're still very far away. Um, but steering things back to your experience with the program, I wondered if you could say anything about your working relationship with your mentor and maybe how they supported you or throughout the process.
Yeah, Dr. Yashrab was really great. I was really terrible with questions. I always like asked him, and he'd be like, "Oh, any questions?" And I would just say like, "Yeah," and I would like take up so much time, but he always like heard me out, and I would like email him after like throughout the week, kind of like updating him and asking him questions. But he was always really patient with me, and I think I like asked him for like recommendation letters too, and he was really kind and he wrote me like really strong rec letters, and he also like for my paper. Um, he like gave me additional resources if I was confused in addition to his work. And I really like I just don't think I could have done what I did without him.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that it was such a positive experience in that way. I mean, I think having like direct one-on-one guidance is so important, especially for something like research, which I
Yeah.
think is something that it's so complex. It's hard to learn how to do it without
Yeah.
having someone there who can answer your specific questions. So on that note as well, do you feel like the program has prepared you or empowered you to do research in the future?
Yes, I would say so. I think this is like one of the only like internships or programs that really did a really deep focus on academic writing and research. And I think like it gave me a lot of skills that I could um honestly like I could use in the future and I could um if I want to ever even go into research professionally, I think this would have set me up really well because I'm kind of getting a head start.
So do you plan to go into research professionally in some capacity?
Um, I'm still thinking, but I think that I'll definitely do research in like in high school, in college, I think even post grad, I do think that it's going to be a really big part of my life, regardless of if I go into research, just because there are like innovations happening every day, and I think it's kind of impossible to be involved in the medical field without being kind of involved in it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that, even if you're not doing like academic research, no
Mhm.
matter what you do, I mean, knowing how to do research is really, in a way, like just knowing how to learn, how to process
Yeah,
information.
and critical
So,
thinking. Yeah.
yeah, critical thinking, the buzzword, but yeah, I mean, it is a skill that's maybe almost universally applicable. Um, so is it is there anything that you wish that you had known earlier prior to joining the program, or like if you're going to talk to someone who is going to start a similar program, is there any advice that you would give them?
I would tell them to not underestimate themselves just because I think at the beginning like I said AI was like a black box and I just felt kind of out of my depth because I knew I wanted to be part of it but it just felt um really like difficult and like strange to me like I didn't know what I was gonna do and how I was gonna learn about it but I think that kind of hindered me in the beginning because I was kind of um I was scared and I think that like I would tell like a future student to just go do it and like do it scared.
Mhm.
Whatever and like don't stop yourself just because you think you're not going to do well.
Yeah. So I feel like when talking to students at CCR and asking this question, maybe the most common answer is like, don't be afraid. And I think that there's really something to that. I think that courage is kind of it's like a fundamental virtue. Maybe courage isn't something that people associate immediately with learning, but I think that to be a good student or to learn effectively, you have to be courageous. So I think that's really good advice. Do you have any final thoughts that you want like to share about your experience?
Um I would just say again um that it was a good experience and I really think that I would like, because it's really early in my life right now, and I think this was like one of the more formative academic experiences I've had so far, and I definitely think I'll carry it with me. Um, and I'm just like I'm looking forward to what's next for me.
That's great. Yeah, I mean that seems like an ideal outcome.
Mhm.
Yeah, I wish you good luck in your future endeavors.
Thank
And
you. I appreciate
thanks
it.
for taking the time to talk with us and share your experience. I really liked hearing your perspective.
Of course, it was an honor.